Hello, everybody. Spirit 420 here because everything I do is so 420, including forgetting to add myself to the stream. How about that? Let me start all over. Good evening, everybody. Spirit 420 here. Yeah, doing things like that is honestly, it's so 420. How can you get any more 420 than that? You know, forgetting to yes, it is a total stoner time as always. Love you, brother. Good to see you. So let's start with the basics. I started my new job. I am overwhelmed as fuck. Now, what I mean by that, I'm not overwhelmed by the job. The job is not that big of a deal. Oh, damn it, dude. Are you kidding? Oh, I turned it over and it's reclaimed. So now it's all, I'll show you. It's all, oh, and I had done such a good job. You know, such a good job of being a dumbass. It's okay though. Dumb is good too. There's nothing wrong with dumb. Without dumb, you don't have smart. You know, think about it like that. Oh goodness, that's what happens. See, now the top is corroded. I'm just gonna have to sit here and smoke all of that stuff and get rid of it. So, anywho, when I say overwhelmed, what I'm really referring to is I have been going through a tough time, right? Like everybody here, I should say, not nobody, everybody here is absolutely privy to understanding what I've been going through and knowing where I'm at. And what I mean by that is if you're not privy and you're new to the show or you're new to this stream or whatever, I did lose a son, Skylar, October 22nd, 2022. It's forever changed my life. I now obviously do all this in memory of him. But a lot of y'all may not know, October 3rd, 19 days before that, I was fired from a job that I thought I was going to retire from. In fact, I was told by the company just not even a year prior that I was invaluable and would never be let go unless I wanted to leave. Things happen. I truly believe now. Hold on, let me take this dab. I have come to the belief and the understanding, not just the belief, but the understanding that the job was taken from, oh man, I don't have any of my alcohol wipes. The job was taken from me. I wouldn't even say taken from me. I was allowed to no longer have to worry about the job, considering what I was now going to be going through in my personal life. Right. So God has a way of clearing the road for you, you know. Has the last year and a half, 2 years, or I guess getting closer to 2 years, has it been difficult not having a source of income? Yes. The first thing I'll say is I wasn't broke right away, obviously, right? And then shortly after the new year, so that happened in October, at the end of October, by February, we found out that Skylar had a life insurance policy. And that obviously, what's the word? That helped us a tremendous amount. We also used that, for those of you who don't know, to start knock off the cough. And I'll do it another time. I'll take you to the website and show you all about it. But that's another time, and we'll start doing that on a later date. But what that does is that literally takes your cough away, whether it's from asthma, smoking marijuana, smoking dabs, chronic cough, emphysema, bronchitis. It doesn't matter. Anything with the upper respiratory, this will help. I want to say it. Well, we do. We offer a money back guarantee, by the way. So if it doesn't work, you send it back. You just give us a call. We have a hassle-free money back, no questions asked, 30-day guarantee. Okay. So if it doesn't work for you in those first few seconds, we won't even ask questions. We'll simply send you a return shipping. Shipping is on us. You get a full refund, even if you paid shipping. Most of the time, though, people spend over $25, so they don't even pay for shipping, because any order over $25 is automatically free shipping. I wish I could do it free for everybody, but you'd be surprised how much shipping just one of these things out costs us as a company. So it's kind of crazy. I didn't mean for this to be a company pitch, so I'm not going to go into that any further. The point that I was trying to make is, over the last year and a half, between that, it's been some hard times. I got to the point where I started selling, and I'm still selling all my stuff because I was going to do this anyway when I had money, just to downsize, because I've got so much shit. When I started streaming in June of 2020, one of the things I talked about is that I am truly of the mindset and want to be going in the direction of minimalism. I do not need all this shit. And what I mean by that is, it's just, dude, it's shit. You know what's funny? First of all, you can only do one thing at a time. Secondly, even if I work with stuff every day, I'm never going to use all the shit that I have already purchased in my life. And I bet you'll find the same thing is true for you. So during this time of hardship, I have also been selling, as well as minimalizing things and getting rid of a lot of wasted money on purchases at a time when I needed the money. But on top of all that, folks, let me be very, very clear and very transparent. I have been depressed. I have been depressed and gone through different phases of grief, from losing my son. It's funny because in America, we have a bereavement leave. You have bereavement leave that basically gives you 3 work days after a death in the family. OMG. Let me just say this. There is no way in God's good green earth that I would have been ready to be back in the workforce pitching anything. I was in tears for the first couple months, man. I'm not even, and y'all remember, I could barely, if you remember, you go back and watch those streams, I had a hard time keeping my composure, throughout the beginning. So now I have been in this. So I stopped streaming, as most of y'all remember, and that really, everything happens for a reason, and I had to go through this depression. I was fighting it. And what I mean by that, folks, is I was fighting the phases of grief. You have to deal with them. That's one thing that I have learned from this experience, is that no matter what happens, if you think you're going to somehow escape the pain and loss that grief brings, and you're going to, somehow not have to go through these phases, think again, partner, because grief is grief. There's a reason, like psychology has shown us, that there's just certain things you're going to go through. What the fuck? Has anybody else noticed like overnight it went from not AI to everybody in their fucking software, and their grandmother has AI for you to use. Anybody knows that? I mean, like over fucking night, man. And what I'm referring to is every piece of this StreamYard that I use to stream. Hey, check out our user AI. User AI. It's AI for everything. I'm like, no, it's okay, man. I have a fucking brain. I don't mean to sound rude to anybody that wants to use AI, because I will absolutely admit and concede to the fact that you can use AI to save a lot of time when you're talking about writing copy, writing sales emails, writing marketing emails, writing marketing in general. There's a lot of times AI could be useful. But when I'm writing for myself, and what I mean by that is when I'm composing the title for the show, right? Or if I'm writing in a blog, sorry, that one really got me. So if I'm writing for myself, or I'm writing for a blog, or I'm writing the title to my show, or fucking, for God's sakes, I'm texting. What's funny is like Grammarly now is one of the ones that is, everybody has it, but Grammarly is like, you want to use AI? I don't need you to fucking think for me. Bot, don't get me wrong. Here's where AI comes in handy to me. And if I ever am going to use it, it's going to be like this. I'm trying to write one article, and I use AI to write 2 other articles that I need to be done on that same day that really don't mean shit to me, but this one is the important. That I don't know how else to say, or maybe article's a bad choice of words. I'm writing an article, and I'll use AI to create a couple of marketing emails for me that, by the way, before I send it out, I'm going to proofread it and make adjustments to the AI, because again, AI is still not like it. The more you use it, the better it gets, because it's a learning thing. It's funny though, because what they're allowed to call AI, it's not what you and I think of when we think of like the Matrix talking about AI and its self-awareness, right? Like there are some AIs like that, don't get me wrong, but there's different levels of intelligence, just like there's different, like even, for real people. So you have more sophisticated AI, and then you have like very elementary AI, right? Most of the companies can afford very elementary AI, and it helps, but it learns. That's the key, is that it continues. So the more you use it, the better it gets. Like Chat GPT, right? Did I say GPT? What did I say? Chat GPT. Isn't it GPT? Okay, it doesn't matter. I got it. I see you. So, funny enough, I mentioned, I will go ahead and do a pause right now. Made a new friend. Donna is in the audience out there. Joe, say hello to Donna. Joe Dirt is one of my closest virtual friends, and let's just call it, we're closest friends. I only point out virtually because I've never actually been able to hug the fucking dude. But he is closer than many people that I have hugged. But I met Donna on this horrible app. I won't even mention it because it doesn't deserve recognition. And what I will tell you is I've talked about it before, and what I found out is this. I didn't use the app long, but I made a friend. I actually made 2 friends. That's why I was supposed to be there. It's just that simple. And there's nothing else to it, right? And one of them, one of these friends, I'd met the other one once before, but I met the other friend tonight at a time when she needed me most, right? Or not say needed me most, at a time when she needed somebody most, right? And that's what this is all about. Sorry, my nose is running now. When I say this is all about, that's what this is all about. I'm not just talking about my show. I'm talking about life. Life is simply put about connecting with people. Okay. if you believe in 6 degrees of separation, and for those of you who don't, let me say this: 6 degrees, or for those of you who don't know what it is, and then you can decide if you believe this or not. But the theory, 6 degrees of separation theory, is that each human is connected to every other human on the planet by only 6 steps. I know this person, they know that person, they know, and so on, right? So each person is only 6 steps away from you, hence the concept of 6 degrees of separation. Now, the longer I live, the more I truly believe this. This directly correlates to the butterfly effect. Hold on just a moment. I gotta get a tissue. All right. Sorry. Now I feel better. It is based on 6 degrees of separation that you have the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect, or how the butterfly effect works, I should say. And what I mean by that is they both are in terms of how small the world is. It is because of 6 degrees of separation that something on one side of the world will happen that affects you on the other side of the world without even knowing that person or the effect that it had on you. You may think that this is crazy, but what ends up happening, let me give you just an idea of it just on a local point, right? What I mean by local is just thinking about it in your daily life. Let's say you're a commuter, okay? You're on your way to work. And this particular day, you have had an outstanding day, right? The beginning of the day has just been nothing but beautiful. You've started it right. Good breakfast, coffee, blah, blah, blah. You're bebopping on the way to work. You have a huge smile on your face and you're singing to the music, right? We've all had this day, so don't act like you haven't. Now, I'm only going to take just one person, right? But anybody who's a commuter knows that they see multiple people on the way and they see you, right? And if you don't think this is the truth, how many times have you been affected by them? But I digress. You're on your way to work and these other commuters see you, and one particular guy sees you, and it puts a smile on his face when he was otherwise having a shit day. You were just the person that they needed to see in order to turn their frown literally upside down and them to have a smile on their face, right? Now they go to work in a better mood that they were, and they end up joyfully walking into work and giving sweet, nice, happy greetings to people, including Suzanne, who's the boss's secretary, and she's had a horrible fucking day to start her day. I mean, like, really horrible day. And you take the time because you're so happy you see it. You're like, I hope that your day gets better. And you just say the smallest thing, and that turns her day around, right? Like, it literally, it doesn't just put a smile on her face like the way that what happened to you, but it literally takes her from downing herself and being down on the world and being down on everything to appreciation, because this person just took the time to say, hey, I hope or pray or whatever that your day gets better. I can see you're having a tough day. I hope it gets better. Maybe even you say something, along the lines of, if you'd like to talk at lunch or something, or if you need to talk right now, I'll take a break. It's showing that person that you care, right? And all of that happened because somebody else, the original part of the example, were on their way to work. Or excuse me, had a great day and were just smiling on their way to work and smiled at somebody else, and that turned their day around, and so on and so forth. The opposite can be said Let me start that statement over. The same can be said for the opposite result. Whereas if you're in a complete fuck it all shit mood and blah, 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 you're going, you know, how do I say it? You could end up causing somebody to get angry. Like, let's say you're pissed off, right? So somebody slightly cuts you off, and then you start honking your horn at them, and you're just yelling and cursing at them. Now they're getting pissed. Now they go into work and they're pissed, and they bark at somebody who asks for something, which turns into a real, like, these things happen, folks. What I mean by that is start looking at your day and seeing a couple of things, because then you can start to understand what people mean by removing themselves from the equation. And then but don't worry, I'm going to come back to the 6 degrees. If you start to notice this, you will stop. What's the word I'm looking for? Not stop. If you become aware of how your energy affects people around you, and you are more aware of that, the more aware you become of that, the more aware you become, you take ownership of your actions, and you try to then change them if you care, right? If you don't care, then don't watch the show. But the whole point is, if you become aware of that, the more you become aware of that, the more you try to be a positive person, right? So it's funny. I'm having either a really stoner moment, or it just doesn't really matter, but I can't remember how I got to where I'm talking about right now, or where I was going. But I will tell you this. Oh, that's kind of funny. I haven't had one of those in a while. Either way, the point being, when you take ownership of your actions and you realize that they affect everybody else around you, it matters. And when you try to be different and try to be positive, people will see that, and they do react to it. Okay. If you're just a negative Nelly and you're they will also feed off of that. So it goes both ways. Hey, I met this new friend today, and I know that, for her, she thinks it's all about, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but the way that she sees it most likely is that she really needed it. But one of the things that I look at, and that I'm going to explain to her right now, is that if it truly happens, if everything is truly happening for a reason, and you understand that, you also understand that everybody that you're helping is also helping you. Everybody that gets help from you, right, is also giving you help, whether you realize it or not. For instance, today, and I didn't even get to say a lot of this because I was there. I was listening to her and not really trying to. I tried to what's the word? Relate and show it was the same. But the reality is, my day has been really, really, up until seeing her, I was on a real hard. I was having a hard time because I started this new job, which I love, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but I absolutely love the new job. Oh, I'm going to have to make it quick because oh, shit. I bet you anything. Let me just check my phone. I just have to keep a lookout for the wife because I'm going to have to go and pick her up. I was having a very hard day, and I the only way I knew how to describe it was overwhelmed, because as much as I love this new job, and I really do, and where I was going earlier with this is I have been so depressed for so long, after not streaming, that it feels not comfortable and not normal to not be depressed, right? And there's a part of me that still absolutely is disgusted with this world, with everything about it. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I literally, it's funny because listening to her today, I was like, some of these things you're saying, you're literally taking words right out of my mouth and how I feel. But when talking to her and trying to give her some guidance, some experience, some wisdom of mine, right, and where I was, because I saw her in pain, I'm saying it to myself at the same time and reminding myself of it, right? So, yes, right now is a difficult time and it's overwhelming because it's exciting to be at a new job, and it's a real monkey wrench, or a real wrench thrown in, a monkey wrench thrown into the works, if you will, to all of a sudden have something to do. I have literally, even though I shouldn't say have something to do. I've always had something to do every day, but now I'm on a schedule that somebody else they're paying me for my skills. That is different. One of the things that even my wife and my mother pointed out too is to be really proud, because there was over 1,000 applicants and only 2 of us were chosen. And we had to go through an extensive amount of assessments, interviews, all this stuff. They wanted highly intellectual. They wanted highly influential. They wanted all these things, right, that had to be. And I was like, okay, that's when you're first hearing that, it's not the same as when somebody else hears it and goes, you know what? Think about that for a minute. That's just how badass you were. You were not even, you're talking about less than, it's a tenth of a tenth, right? It's a percent of a percent, right? And what I mean by that, 1% would be having 1% of 100, by the way, is what I'm talking about. There would be 10 of us, right? There was only 2 of us. So whatever that is, I'm not going to worry about the numbers, but you get what I'm saying. It's a fraction of a percent, which means quite frankly, I need to be proud of that. I'd lost my confidence. Part of what you have to get back after being out of any game for a while is you have to get back the confidence to play the game, right? It's one of the reasons that pros, if you will, like when you're, to do a sports analogy, which always works, it's the reason that pro athletes generally don't really like to do the whole retirement thing until they truly retire, because once they retire and they're on it for even 6 months, they are not the same competitive person by any stretch. They have not maintained any of the things that they need to maintain in order to have that competitive edge, right? The same thing can be said for a job in the workplace, right? You have a certain skill. Well, it may be on one hand like riding a bike, and I get that. That's one of the things that my mother and my wife were like, hey, it's like riding a bike, you never forget. And I get that. There's truth to that. At the same time, if you haven't ridden a bike, let's say for 2 years, you're going to be a little shaky when you first get on it. Yes, it is the memory of it, the reflex of what you're doing, all that will come back, and it will come back very quickly. But those first 10 minutes are pretty fucking scary. Let's just put it that way. Did I just get a text from him? No. Those first 10 minutes, and when you're talking about the bike analogy, are pretty scary, or can be, right? So to me, 10 minutes is like that first couple weeks when you're talking about a job. All of a sudden, I'm talking to new people. All of a sudden, I'm talking to new people. One of the things that happens with that I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but like if you're going to get to know me, even if you're going to just work with me, you have to know that I have lost a child in the last couple years. Like there might be a time where it's really out of respect so that they don't say anything that could be, what's the word? That could trigger me, if you will, or say anything inappropriate they're aware of. Hold on. Big old dat fab. So again, it's by telling them it's not, and so when I tell them, I try to, obviously I work very hard on keeping my composure. Almost inevitably, when I tell anybody, they start crying or they get really down, and I try to tell them, hey, look at me. It's my son, and look at me. Like, we're having a conversation about being positive. You have to grow from things, even death. When I say even death, to somehow think that death is supposed to stop the living is retarded. I know that's a word we're not supposed to use, politically incorrect. But if you think that death is meant to stop us, it shouldn't have technically put me down as long as it did. I have 2 other children I'm raising. I have a mother and a wife, and I have his twin son that desperately needs my guidance and support during this time. It's selfish. And when I say this, so anybody who knows me, I really kind of held it off, because for the first year, all I heard was, I can't believe you're doing this. Can't believe you're doing this well, blah, blah, blah. I cried, and I cried a lot. I cried a lot in private, and I kept it to myself. That way, people only saw the strength, because one of the first things I heard after I lost Sky was, oh, most of this breaks most parents, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, there's no fucking way. It's not going to break me. I had worked so hard in those last 6 months, particularly with this channel. And one of the things that he told me repeatedly was how fucking proud he was of what I was doing. So this was obviously what I was supposed to be doing, and all that, right? So I heard so many people, I cannot tell you. I hadn't met any parents yet of lost children. By the way, that happened too, which was just ridiculous. Within 2 weeks of launching KO, I just want to take a moment to really say this for someone who's watching. Within 2 weeks of launching KO, I met 5 parents who lost children, all of them around the same age as Skylar, in the sense of 19 to 22, 21. None of them were older than Sky. So keep that in mind. Every single parent I met had a child younger than Skylar die. And one of those parents had a 2-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son that she lost. Now, I say that because the first thing that happened to me when meeting those people within 2 weeks of launching this company that was in memory of my son, right? I realized that was, if you don't see, if you think that's a coincidence, that's bullshit, right? This was sent to me to show me, hey, it could have been worse. You could have only gotten 21 years, 19 years, 15 years, 2 years. Be thankful for the time that you had, but know that that is all for a reason, and none of it is for naught. They want you, and when I say they, I'm talking about the system. What helps somebody gain power in this world? One of the first things that anybody that's trying to gain power will learn is that it is easier to be more powerful over people that have very little self-worth. If they don't believe in themselves, right, and they're low, they're easy to lead. You can become powerful. Even now, people that watch me, there's a certain amount, but it's not the same type of power that I'm inflicting that I once did when I had money. I don't care about power. I am trying to help people. I will end up becoming more and more powerful because of this. That will happen. Any true person who's trying to help will have a certain amount of power, but watch how they use it. Like the old Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Most of the folks that have it don't show it. Okay. But back to what I was saying, these people were determined. I met these 5 parents. They are all now, by the way, personal friends, close friends. I've talked to all of them. They have helped me through many things. But again, they were clearly put there to show me and give me a respect. It's not a coincidence that I meet 5 and not one had a child older than Skylar. Not one. I mean, really, think about that for a minute, folks. Okay? That's not there. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in mistakes. Why? I shouldn't even say it that way anymore. Let me change that. I know there are no coincidences and there are no mistakes. And anybody that tells you that is telling you that because they come from where I was going, this model that creates power for the few and the masses become the sheeple, right? If you believe that you're nothing more than a grain of sand on the beach because of the enormity of the universe, does this sound familiar to anybody? If you believe that, you have fallen right into the trap because you no longer believe the truth that the ones who are making you believe that and forcing that message upon you know, and that is that you are special. You have a purpose to play. You've already, if you are here, you've already had an effect on so many people you don't realize due to the 6 degrees of separation, due to the butterfly effect, right? And once it's accepted and you realize that you are special and you have a reason to live, then you realize that everything around you is trying to tell you differently. That is the world you live in. It is doing that, because if you believe the opposite, then you are powerless and easy to lead, and you'll fall in line. Not only are you special, and not only do you have a purpose, but when you accept that and you know it's the truth, you do start to spread more positivity, and you do start to help more and be a giving and loving person and selfless. And part of selfless, by the way, that I had to learn the hard way, and Joe will attest to this, is that if you do these things for recognition, you better just fucking quit. Don't do it for recognition. Nobody's going to recognize you as the person you are. Nobody's going to care in this world. Okay, that's not the point. The point is you will keep doing it and doing it. And by what I mean by no recognition is, who cares if you ever get, who cares if anybody ever says, man, this person is so great because they've done all this. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to help somebody. You're doing it to be a nicer person. And here's the balance. Here's the thing to remember. If you're spreading love, positivity, support, all these, let's say, light side, right? All these light side aspects of the light side, guess what's going to happen? Because this is where some people get very frustrated. You do that and you expect your life to open up now, right? Because you're being so sweet and kind, and you look and you're like, all these sweet and kind people, they're doing so well, and they're, most of the time that's just an illusion, and I'll come back to that. But here's what happens in the real world. Okay, here's what happens with balance. If you are spreading an enormous amount of positivity, joy, and all this other stuff, the balance is that the negative will fucking seek you out. The dark side will now have to throw more darkness. It is now going to work harder to bring your light down. The brighter you shine, the more the dark side sees you and tries to extinguish you. It's just the balance of this world we live in. And when you think somebody is doing all great, I'm telling you, I've been in some great places, folks. I don't mean, let me say that I've been in some places with a lot of money and a lot of power, and I mean a lot, not billionaire, okay, but definitely millionaire power. And that you already get your first taste of it there. Plus, the level of drug dealer that I was at the top. Okay, when you have that kind of power, it's amazing because people think everything goes your way, even though, first of all, it doesn't. And secondly, you don't share with them how it doesn't. So when you see these people with fame and fortune and you think it's all going their way and everything they touch is gold, 90% of the time, I'm not talking all about all the time, because there are some examples, and I'm not going to get into naming any names because then it gets stupid. There are some really good people out there who have made a lot of money and they stayed true to themselves, okay? But 90% of the time, they are having, or they are somehow paying for a lot of this that you can't see. And that's just what you do when you have money and power, is you make it look like it's easy when in fact you're paying out the ass. And there's a lot of nastiness behind closed doors. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, more than 90%. So the next time that you feel like life is kicking your ass, you must stop and think to yourself, okay, if balance is the reality, whether you believe in God or not, most people do understand that karma is real. It happens, okay? The karmic balance of it, which if you look at just the yin and yang, the basics of that, right? That is a dark side and a light side forever circling one another. That's within all of us. And the reality is the brighter you shine, the more that dark side is going to try to extinguish you. The more noticeable you are. It's like, think of it like ghouls and monsters in the dark, right? And then you're this shining light. Oh, they see, okay, well, let's go fucking demolish that person. That's exactly what it is. Okay, metaphorically speaking. For some of you, phorically speaking, the ghouls are going to get you. No, I'm teasing. But it is the reality, right? Darkness, evil, whatever you want to call it, if you're shining bright, is going to try to ruin your fucking day. And the more you shine, the brighter you shine, the more frequent the attempts, and the worse they will get. I'm telling you, like, it was part of what happened to me when Sky died. I almost felt it immediately. Okay. If you go back and watch the episodes before, I was at the height of happiness, not because I was making a lot of money, folks. It was because I finally understood the concept of truly being happy and understanding and giving in to knowing everything happens for a reason. Because then when something horrible would happen, I would go, okay, that's okay, because right around the corner, something great is going to happen. And it would. And it all started with the accident. Just to backtrack, you go back and watch this, but it all started with the accident with my wife. Shortly after that, we had that night where no matter what we looked at, every single horrible event in our lives was the catalyst to an even greater, more wonderful event. So for layman's terms, if this shitty thing hadn't happened, these great things could not have occurred. Once you come to that full understanding, which, by the way, that happened when I was, that was 46, right? So it took me a good 4 years to really fully let go and truly surrender to the understanding that I am on the right path and I'm doing all the right things. And by the way, the more that happened, the more that I got signs, just stupid amounts of signs, undeniable, unless you think the world runs on a fucking coinky dink, and it doesn't. Let me put it to you like this. It's also not a coincidence that as I gave into this, more and more signs were revealed to me. Right? It went from seeing a sign like every 4 or 5 months to seeing a sign sometimes every 4 or 5 hours, like, sometimes even minutes, like just boom, boom, boom. So I was at the height of content, happiness. And I would say, let me give you understanding what I'm talking about. I'm saying this was probably the closest to, as they say, being one with the world and content. That's when Skylar was killed. Now, for those of you who think that is a coincidence, I say you're insane, because had I been in any other condition, in any other place with my state of being, my state of existence, my understanding, I would not have handled it. And to give you an idea of how incredible it was, and I've already told this before, but on the 21st, the day before Skylar was killed, the last thing that my son said to me and gave me before he left this earth, for all intents and purposes, he didn't know it, right? But the last thing that he said to me was how proud he was of me with what I was doing, not just in business, but also Spirit of 420.
that day I had closed a big deal where I started a new company and got funding for it. Go back and watch the old streams. You'll know the story. He was proud of me of that, but he was also talking about proud of me for what I was doing in streaming. And most importantly, that he loved me. So that's the last thing that I heard from my son's voice. Yes, it was electronic. It doesn't matter. That was the last thing. And when he left this world, that consciousness of who he was left, knowing where I was and where I was heading, and he was very happy with that. Had it been anything less, I don't believe that I would have, excuse me, I don't believe I would have handled, I know I wouldn't have handled it as well, but I think it may have broken me. It's not a coincidence that in the last 6 months, I went from, and let me try to explain. So the growth that I did was like a 180. Okay. And what I mean by that is I've always had a higher power. That wasn't it. Coming to the understanding and fully giving into everything happens for a reason. And you have to learn from the bad and overcome the bad so that you can have the good. It's a balance, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff started coming to me literally in September of 2016 when my wife was hit by a car. She was nearly killed. I already gave you some of that. It was this journey. So if you're doing a 180, right? So let's just have a meter. Here's here, and I'm trying to get to here, right? Right. From the time that she got hit in 2016 to April 20th, 2020, I had done about that much. Okay. I got about halfway there. In those 6 months, I don't know how else to say it. In those 6 months, I did 50 more percent. So what I had done in like 3.5 years, I did the same amount of soul searching and development, understanding, whatever one with the world, all that shit in those last 6 months. It's amazing now on the other side. And I even remember talking about this early on, like what it would be like. What's up, brother? Oh, I didn't even see you in here, man. Love you, Chaos. That's a dude, Joe. I don't know if I have made it clear, but this guy has known me since my first depression of losing my family back in 2004. That's when we met. We met right after, technically, I think we actually met. I'm sorry, Chaos. My bad. Technically, we met in 03 because we met within, both of us, I'm pretty sure, met each other within months of going on Xbox Live, as well as playing the game that we met on. I know you remember it, buddy. Rainbow Six. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Dude, I will text you later. I already went through a lot of it here in the show, but let me just say, I never got to this part, so I'll say it with you here. And then I want to come back to what I was saying, which I'm starting to forget. So somebody write it down right now, please. I've already forgotten. There it is. See, that's just a stoner that I am. It'll come back to me in a minute. Oh. If I had not gotten to that place, I'll come back to the job, Chaos, I promise. If I had not gotten to that place, I would not have handled it to that degree. And now that I'm on the other side, even, I feel like, and don't get me wrong, like I said, that first year, if you go back and watch the streams from October 2022, right, and see, like, you'll see I handled shit pretty well. Like, people were continuing, like, I got a lot of, in fact, I actually had people saying I've gotten so much strength from you. I mean, I got a lot of that after Sky died. One of the greatest things that I ever heard too after Skylar passed away, and it was right away, was many of his friends. I never thought about this as something that would happen, but And I only, for anybody who never has a dead child, you'll never know this. And I hope you don't, but they thanked me for having raised him the way I did. You said it earlier, my new friend, that he was a great kid. You have no idea how fucking great he truly was. And people would sit there, like, all I can tell you is I was bombarded the first 2 weeks after he was gone. First of all, it was a huge memorial, by the way. You can go back and watch that live stream and see how many people. And Outlaw Golf. That's right. I remember, buddy. What was that? Oh, you're fine. So that first year, I got I want to say at least 6 or 7 people thanked me, all the way from people 20 years old to fucking, no kidding, people in their 60s who worked with Sky, thanking me as the father, because they were like, I guess maybe this is something you can do if you have, I don't know. It felt, there were so many, let me put it to you like this. So many people thanked me that it felt like this must be customary, but I didn't find that it was necessarily customary. So that made me feel like 2 things. One, how fucking incredible my son was during his days living here, number 1. And number 2, I was a huge, huge part of that. In fact, I'm definitely more than his mother. Anybody who knows the story, they were with both of us until 2004. Then they were with her predominantly, except for holidays, summers, they were with me. Then in 2009, from 2009 to 2011, it was I had them every 2 weeks, and I had them through the week because I was living there, so I would pick them up and all kinds of stuff. And then from age 11 on, they were with me all the time. And in fact, from 12 to almost 14, she textbook abandoned them by no communication, left the country for more than 1.5 years. So I was, and my wife and my mother and my father, we were the predominant influences, obviously me being number 1 because I'm his father, but the influences all came from us. And that's, it just, when somebody thanks you for raising your son the way that you did, I can't tell you. It is bittersweet, because you're only going to hear that if you've lost a child. But I don't know that there is a greater compliment that could be bestowed upon a parent. Now, that was my wife that just texted, so I've got to wrap this up. On my job, and I just want to say, by the way, so again, I was basically warding off grief until I stopped streaming. And then once I stopped streaming, I had no choice but to face it head on. And I had to, and I dealt with some deep depression, but I handled all of it, I think, pretty okay, because here I am on the other side. And chaos, the job. So if you truly understand that everything happens for a reason, I got to make this quick, so I'll do it in bullet points. I started looking for a job, and I almost lost faith because I was being turned down. I cannot tell you how many times I would get to be the final 2, the final 3, the final 2, the final 3. I've had places come back and say, oh, well, we're not going to get you this time, but we'll come back. They come back, they do another interview, they love me, and then they pass on me again. Pass on me. I've had more pass on me than I've ever had in my entire career. And what you don't understand is my last year in business, I sold over $1 million as a salesman in a situation where that was on 15 deals. Okay. In 15 deals, I did 1.1 million in revenue. That is stupid. Okay. I am a ridiculously good salesman, and my numbers prove it. My references prove it. My letters of whatever, you know what I'm talking about. And everybody was passing on me, folks. I mean, my resume is fucking ridiculous. However, it did include the fact that I went through bereavement and that I started this other business because I am transparent, right? But my sales is still there. And I am still surprised at this point that I didn't get picked up, but I'm no longer surprised. And here's why. So you asked me about the job, Chris, Chaos. Sorry. I know for a fact I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be because I have never felt a connection with a job after this short of a time. And I'll make this quick. I started talking to the recruiter back in April, at the end of April, and we had this ridiculous conversation. It was engrossing. I told her about my son. By the end of it, she was like, man, you are one of the most positive people I've ever met. She's like, you are now number one on my list. I was like, okay. The next day, and I've told the story, but the next day they put a hiring freeze because they were changing things. And I'm so happy because if I had learned the other way, I'd have to completely throw all that away. So even though it sucked, I ended up being the one to reach out and reached out right like the same day that he turned it on. She's like, oh my God, I was going to call you tomorrow. And everybody I've talked to, I have connected with. And everybody I've talked to, I've told them once I have them one-on-one, I feel compelled to let them know what I've been through. They have to know how to respect so that they don't step on anybody's toes, step on my toes, do any damage, right? If you know that I have a dead son, then you're not going to make some dumb comment about a dead child. Put it that way, right? That's just simple being polite, right? That said, it has never felt like I know why I was passed up. Like it's so obvious now. And even though it sucked and sometimes I was stressing it day by day, every bill that had everything, the bare bones minimum that had to happen to keep us afloat happened until I got the job. And now here we are. And it is guaranteed it is due to God, and guaranteed everything happens for a reason, because these people, like I work at a fucking job that the owner believes in God and talks about praying before making big decisions. Are you fucking kidding me? He doesn't require it. There's no requirement whatsoever, right? But I have never felt more. He cares about people. He cares more about the people. He was ready to shut the fucking company down altogether and stop. And then he figured out a way to do it where it was better for the company. With that said, I have to go. My wife is waiting on me. Listen, I love all of you. I will be back. Today is the 25th. I will be back. By the way, 25 is a 7th. For those in the crowd who know all about my 7s. What was this? Oh, I missed it right here. Yes, I have. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it. Chris, Chaos was there when I literally told him and my mother and my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time, I was like, you know what? My next job, I'm going to get $100,000 base salary for management. And literally within 3 months, I had the job. But that was because I made it happen, by the way. Anyway, I love all of you. Please have a wonderful, blessed evening. I will be back on Thursday, which is the 27th. And don't know what time yet. I'll try to get it posted beforehand, but I was in the middle of meeting somebody new. And as I told them, it was more important to be there helping them than it was to be here streaming. That's just the simple truth. I love all you guys. Have a blessed evening. And I love you, man. You know that. I will always love you, brother. And have a wonderful evening. See you on Thursday. Peace.
I switch here, I'm a strange fuck. Consist on ain't something I could say well. Throw my change into the wishing for a change well. Wish a day a swell life for the next come. And when the next come, pretend that it's the best one. Like I ain't even gonna try and say that to the next one.